So great. So thanks everyone for joining for this session with Sona Mittal from Ralph Lauren. I want to take a couple of minutes just to talk about what IWP is. Those of you who have been here before will remember I keep saying the same thing, but we are a group meant for Indian women, helping other Indian women with career choices, mentorship, and leadership. We aim to influence people to think critically about their career and reach their fullest potential. I think that's a very, very important thing. We all have a lot more unexplored potential. And as they say, your network is your net worth. You are the sum of the 5 people you spend time with the most. So let's make it possible to have, the best possible network so that we can imbibe the qualities of those around us. And the speaker series itself is for really building the dream, because we want to make it possible that for each of us to be able to dream, to see goals that are much, much further than what we think are achievable or accomplishable. And by seeing folks in leadership like Sona, whatever, we are going to be able to, allow that dream to be created within us as well. Okay, so with that, having said that, let's go ahead and start. Thank you for joining us, Sona. It's a pleasure. It's a great honor to have you here with us.
Thank you, Priya. I'm excited to be part of this group, and excited to share some of the things that I've been through, and excited to learn more from you guys as well as to what you guys are up to and what are the questions you may have as we get this conversation going.
Absolutely. So, tell us, Sona, initially about your background and your early days. You gave me some really important information yesterday about your background. Can you tell us how you started yourself?
So, yeah. And Burjees, back to your question, long journey. I'm Sona, as you know. I hail from India, central part of India, Madhya Pradesh. I have 2 lovely kids. One is a freshman right now, and another is a sophomore. And I have been in the software industry for more than 20 plus or 25, close to 25 years. Had a very exciting journey through this 20 to 25 years. I started after my engineering and an MBA. I started my career with Infosys as well as Wipro. Traveled a lot of places, did a lot of projects, typical software engineer kind of background, especially in those early days. Traveled the world, loved it. 5 years of being in that journey from growing from software engineer to senior software engineer to manager to senior project manager. Had really good fun times learning some technology, but more so I wasn't purely technical per se. I was started with a little bit of coding, but soon moved on to more of business process and project management kind of efforts. 6 years later, I was married before I started work. So I was married to my engineering classmate right after we finished MBA and moved to Bangalore. After 5, 6 years of traveling, my mother and my parents had it enough that we were never staying in one city, so they sort of made us, asked us or forced us to be in one city. That's when we moved from Bangalore to Arizona. I came to Arizona. My husband had a project in Arizona. I came to Arizona hoping that Wipro would find something in Arizona at that point in time. 4 or 5 months into my stay over there, they couldn't find anything. So I quit Wipro and I joined Infosys, and I started working with American Express account over there. Soon after that, I got pregnant. I had my first child. And once I had my first child, I just could not have the courage to go back to work. I thought, let him start sitting and I'll probably go back to work, or let him start eating independently and I'll go back to work, or let him start walking and I'll go back to work. And that actually made it 3 years before I could think of it. And then I was pregnant with my second child. And I did the same exact process with my second child as well. So all in all, I took 6 years of break from my work, taking care of both of my kids. I enjoyed it to the fullest, loved it, so much so that I actually did not want to go back to work. But the day I sent my younger one to the daycare, or rather preschool, that's when I thought, I got to do something back with my life as well. So that's when I started looking out again. And 6 years of break was quite a big break. I mean, before that, I had about 5 to 6 years break, and I had grown very fast into Infosys and Wipro. But those 6 years made me believe that, I'm not sure where I belong, or what am I going to do, or am I still current in with the technology, or with what is happening in the industry. I was telling Priya, I did undersold myself at that point in time. I joined Ralph Lauren. I joined again as a business analyst, after being senior project manager 6 years ago. But I joined as a business analyst. In fact, I took a really big hit on my salary as well, because again, I wasn't sure, what do I have left in me to offer to the organization. So with that kind of lack of confidence, I actually started at a lower level at a really low salary as well. But thankfully, with God's grace, with everyone's blessing, I actually got into a program that was starting from scratch, and I got in there at the right time. So I got to learn a lot of Ralph Lauren processes. Previous to Ralph Lauren, my background was in brewery and winery industry, but Ralph Lauren as a fashion retailer was my first. But because I started at a lower level, I had a really good opportunity to learn a lot of detailed processes. And that's when my journey at Ralph Lauren started. And, over the past 12 years, I went from a business analyst to senior BA to a PM, senior PM, and director, senior director. And here I am as vice president of a lot of domains that I handle within Ralph Lauren, especially the merchandising, the product development, the design. And at this point in time, I lead a lot of transformation initiatives at Ralph Lauren.
So awesome. And also, you mentioned that your office was 45 miles away and it was a pre-COVID era, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I had my kids and when I joined Ralph Lauren, we were very, very far away from where our office was.
Mm.
And this is something that I'm sure you guys have experienced as well. I mean, I had the good luck of being able to take break with my kids, and I'm sure a lot of people don't have that. However, even when I started working, every single day when I would come back home, I would feel a guilt, a guilt within me that I wasn't there for my kids, and I wasn't there for their school events, or I wasn't being their class mom, or I wasn't on field trip, and so on and so forth. And just the office plus the commute, 1.5 hours each way. Every day was a bit of guilt, a bit of am I doing the right thing, am I taking care of my kids the right way. But I was telling Priya earlier when we were talking, that guilt when my kids were in kindergarten, or were in elementary school, I realized that when they grew up, and when these guys started understanding, and by middle school or something, I realized how much our kids really appreciate what we do. I mean, you can be totally stay at home mom, and your kids will appreciate it as much. But if you're juggling two things, if you're having a full-time job as well as taking care of the house and taking care of the kids, our kids really appreciate that, and really learn from it. There are things that we have to make them learn, but there are things that they just learn from the fact that they see what we do, and what we do for them, and what we do for our family as a whole. So all that guilt actually sort of disappeared when my kids grew up, and they understand. I have been traveling quite a bit as well, not so much, but I do. Like, for example, there was a time when for 2 years I used to travel each month for 4 to 5 days to Geneva. And I would always feel that, when I go, what are these guys going to do, and how are they going to eat, and how are they going to get to school? And of course, my husband has been really, really supportive. But I realized that, my being there when they needed, and my not being there for few short periods of time actually made them independent as well. It taught them how to take care of themselves, how to be independent. And I think overall it was a nice journey, and overall it is nice to see that our kids also appreciate the effort that we put in to make everything work.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a story of, every mom, every professional mom, right? That mom guilt is a very real thing, but at the end of the day, it's a good thing to kind of, stick with it and continue to, do what you have to do. Now, again, in your words, this was also something we talked about yesterday. Like, why should hardworking Indian women worry about their career, and what should they worry about, right? In your
Yeah,
own words.
yeah. I mean, I think worry is a strong word, or worry is not a word that I would want to use. Um, I think in my mind, you decide what you want to do, and you want to do the best at it. You want to be the best at it. Um, you want to become a database administrator, and that's what you want to be. That's fine. You totally would want to decide and be the database administrator. I wanted to get this far. At this point in time, I'm probably not looking at, being a senior VP or being a CIO. I might be looking at, expanding my breadth in terms of things that I do. But, career in my mind does not mean just growing up. Career could mean, growing horizontally as well. And career in my mind, kind of means you do your best at any point in time. It need not be, it need not be promotions. It need not be pay increases. For me, just don't do your job, or just don't do your work because you want to kill your time, or you want to, stay engaged. Whatever you're doing and whatever you have decided is your thing, be the best at it. Put in all your things, because I was telling Priya yesterday that 24 hours in a day, if 8 to 9 hours goes in our sleep routine, among those 12 hours or 14 to 16, 14 hours that are remaining, about 8 to 10 hours we put in at work. That is 70% of our awake time. So this is a large amount of our life. And if that's what we are spending on, if that's the time that we are spending on in our life, let's be all excited about it. Let's all be happy about it, and let's not drag it. So, your career is yours, and however you want to take your career, whether it is upwards or horizontal, just enjoy it, and just feel satisfied and fulfilled with it.
And be brave enough to make the changes you need to, right? To get to that point where you find what will give you fulfillment, really,
And
right?
yeah, and that's what, and thankfully my friend Amida joined. I mean, and we were earlier we were talking, Priya was mentioning that, and this is true for all of us. I mean, we were just talking about Navratri, and going to a golu or a Diwali party and all that. And us as women, when we get together, even though all of us are working professionals, us as women, when we get together in a party, we talk about our kids, we talk about food, we talk about planning the next event, but we hardly ever talk about what we do, or challenges that we are facing, or the victories that we have had. Those are the things that we never, it's just not in us to talk about those things. And it might not be in a big large setting, but I would definitely
లాస్ట్ అది
urge,
నేను వేసుకొని వచ్చినాను.
Sorry, go
I would
ahead. Sorry.
definitely urge each one of you to find that, your network, a core network. I mean, so I was taking example of Amidha and myself. Over this past 10 years, I mean, we are friends from high school, and we have discussed, I mean, both of us do lead large teams, and we've discussed our people challenges, our successes. We have, if we have gone to trainings, we have shared our learnings with each other. This is what I learned today when there was a leadership forum, and this is what we did, or this is the challenge I'm facing, and let's talk it out as to how we can help with each other. So back to Priya's point, use your core and, your 2 people, 3 people, and this forum, this is an amazing forum that you guys have created. Use this forum to discuss, where you're hitting a ceiling or where you're hitting a roadblock. And, there is so much wealth of experience and skills that we, at least 15 people on this chat right now that have that. If you come up with some problem, I'm sure somebody else has gone through that problem themselves and have some experiences, whether it worked or what did not work, that they can share, and you can, use that to enhance your response to that particular event as well.
And really hold each other up too, right? Like, as in, like, support each other and help the other person be empowered, feel empowered to do more, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. That is amazing. So going on to a little bit more of the specifics. What's your leadership model? How do you lead at Ralph Lauren?
Leadership model. I honestly believe, and I mean, there are so many codes that I can code, but I seriously believe that if you lead a team from a sense of powerful position, like I have a team that reports into me, but if I'm leading them and they are doing what they need to because I'm their manager, I'm their boss, that's only going to get us 90%. They will only give their 90% or 100%. But if you lead a team where you have relationships with your team, that team is going to give beyond what they would. So they would give their 110%, 120%. So my leadership, I don't want to call it leadership style, but my relationship style is establishing those relationships, is establishing that one-on-one connect with your peers, with your team, with your leaders as well. That's staying engaged with your team members, knowing not just what they are going through at work or what are their needs in terms of what they want to do at work, but what their challenges are in terms of their life as well, and their family, their kids, their day to day. So I think what has helped me, I feel, is that connect that I have with my team, with my people, who feel that I'm going to be there for them no matter what, whether it is, whether it is work that I will stand up for them, or whether it is something that they have going on personally that they could always come to me for a conversation, for an advice, for just to share, just to have somebody to listen to.
And you mentioned visiting one of the offices or the factories 6 years later, right? And going and renewing contacts with the people you knew over there.
I mean, I think, you guys are doing networking, but we cannot, you cannot underscore networking much more, right? I mean, we all know that you can apply to any jobs, you can submit resumes to any number of companies, any number of resumes. Your resume would never ever be looked at unless somebody else internally was actually pushing for your resume for somebody to be looked at. So the networking, and networking not at the time of when you need somebody, networking from a day-to-day basis. I was just giving an example to Priya. I was in our distribution center last week. Since COVID, our travel has completely shut down. I mean, we are not meeting a lot of people in person, but I got an opportunity last week to go to Greensboro, which is our distribution center. And, the day I landed over there, I sat down and I remembered who all I remember used to work in Greensboro and who all I used to meet. And believe me, a lot of, Ralph Lauren has also gone through a lot of layoffs during the COVID year. So there were a lot of people who were not there, but I pinged at least 5 people saying, "Hey, I'm going to be in your office tomorrow. Are you guys there? I know I would just want to come by and say hello." And believe me, those people are not the people that I currently work on anything. I might have worked on with something, 6 years ago or 10 years ago, and might not work with them another 2 years or 10 years or maybe another, never. But networking to me is taking that time, going to somebody, reaching out, saying hello, how are you, how are things, how is it going, and making that attempt in your day-to-day life, not when, now that today I have, I need something or I'm looking for another job and let me reach out to people. No, that's not networking. That's reaching out for favors. But this forum, for example, great thing. I mean, you guys are taking time out of your busy schedules on Sunday and connecting with each other. This is a strong network of women that can help each other and refer each other, and be a place where somebody can talk and listen. So that's great.
And I sometimes find that, I've heard about, my husband talking about this, or, other men talking about this, like, oh, so and so left from this company and he went to another company. And when he went to the other company, he pulled in everyone from his previous role into into his current company. And you see the same group of people moving from one company to the next because of the close connections that they have created, right? Because they've created so many strong bonds. They all know each other, they trust each other, and hence they're able to work well together, right? It doesn't matter what the company is. And I think we women need to kind of do the same thing, right? Build those very, very strong networks where we trust each other, and have the confidence that we have someone who will be a sounding board and who will also be someone we can go to for professional needs.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Now, again, to go back a little bit deeper into your, you mentioned you want to build relationships, and you said to you mentioned intentionally creating relationships at all levels, right? So how do you go about intentionally creating those relationships? How do you get on the radar of an exec in a huge corporation like Ralph Lauren?
I think one thing that I strongly believe in is, at whatever level you are, go out there, speak about your work. Whenever you get an opportunity, and it could be a small setting, it could be a large setting, it could be whatever, talking within your team or presenting your work outside of your team, cross track, cross domains or departments. Get out there and talk about yourself, present your work. And you might feel that this is a small group of people that are noticing me, but those execs are not there. People talk about each other quite a lot, right? Entire company talks about. And I was telling Priya, and I shared this with Amida also. Over the years, we have come to a position where now we make decisions regarding people's promotion, regarding people's compensation. And this has been happening since past few years. Earlier, we were, when we were getting promoted, we didn't know how we get promoted, right? We used to think, if I'm doing a great job, somebody is going to notice and somebody is going to take care of me. Unfortunately, that's not how it happens at all. You do a good job, and you can be doing a good job, and you can be just sitting out there, and people notice, and people could be thankful to what you do, but nobody might want to do something about it. When we are in leadership positions and making this, having these conversations about who to promote. And I didn't share this with you, Priya, yesterday. So it's not just, so from each of our teams, we have to say, this is the person in my team I need to promote. Now, of course, us all leaders, they want every or few people from their team to be promoted, but not everybody can be promoted. The person that gets promoted is not only when I talk about them, when three of my peers also talk about them. So being noticed is super, super important. Being out there is super, super important, because when I say that Anila needs to be promoted, and Priya also makes a case and said, yeah, I worked with Anila 6 months back, and she helped me with this, and she was forthcoming with this. That puts a weight on things that you do and things that people see. So senior execs is one thing, but the more you're out there, the more you talk about yourself, the more people notice, and the more people talk about you in front of other senior execs. And this is something that, and it's not, I won't say it is a Indian thing, it's a women thing. It's a lot of combination. I think certain races, us as Indians, us as women, we do not talk about our work. We think that I want to do my good job, and I would hope that somebody notices it. But no, I mean, in this day and age, not only you do a good job of your work, but you do a good job of selling your work as well. So that's my advice for everybody. You might, and I was just sharing an example, a fun event that I had. I think it was about 8, 9 years ago. Mr. Ralph Lauren himself visited our campus, and I was like 4 years into the organization, and they reached out asking people who would want to do a Q&A with Ralph Lauren. And I was like, hey, I'm going to do it. And I mean, I signed up, and I was like, what the heck? Like, what did I do? I mean, I'm not talking to Ralph Lauren. But I wanted to get out there, and I wanted to talk to him. And the day he came, and I don't know how many of you have seen Ralph Lauren. More he has grown, and now he's 80 plus, and he's like, that godly figure now. And especially within Ralph Lauren, when he walks in, people have tears. Like, all of us have tears in our eyes when we see him. It's an amazing experience to just see him. And I spoke to him. I had a good 4 or 5 minutes Q&A with him. I mean, it was a general chit chat, and we were, laughing. And there were 300 people at that point in time, and it was a Q&A at that point in time. And the event got over. But in that event, there was CEO, there were CFOs, and there were presidents of the company. And I didn't realize that people actually noticed. And 2 months later, when I was giving presentation about something that we were doing, and this presentation was to the CEO and CFO, and they literally said, "Aren't you the girl that had a Q&A with Mr. Lauren?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So, and so, the point is that you think you're not just use all the opportunity. You never know who's noticing, who is out there, who's looking at what you're doing or what you're saying. So use all the opportunities to be out there, to be talking about your work, or to be generally out there. And people notice, and people see that, a confident you, and they remember that.
So I'm curious, when you got selected to do the Q&A, there must have been other people also who kind of wanted to do the same thing, right? So were there multiple people who got to do Q&A, or was it just you? Or how did you get selected? Like, what do you feel gave you that the impetus or the advantage over the others who might have applied to do the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, they were trying to ration it. There were a lot of people who definitely wanted to talk to him. They were rationed by departments, and in my department, I was a good mix of not so new and not so senior, and good a good balance in between. And people knew that I'm outspoken, and I'm out there. So that probably just helped me being the choice.
That's awesome. That is really amazing. When you mentioned that, I was like, wow, that moment must have been like something special for you, right? Was there any learning from Mr. Rolf Lauren himself that you felt was something you took back as something treasured?
I mean, just belief in your work, right? I mean, Mr. Lauren, and I don't know if you guys know the story of Ralph Lauren. He used to work at Bloomingdale's. He was a sales associate over there. And at that point in time, when he started, the neckties used to be really, really slim. And he thought that, the slim ties is not it. It should not be the fashion. He wanted to really go with the broad ties. And Bloomingdale's was like, are you crazy? Are you, that's not happening. And he believed in himself, and he literally sat down with his wife, bought the fabric, stitched those ties, pleaded Bloomingdale's that at least keep these ties. If they sell out, fine. If they don't sell out, I'm going to take it back. He kept at it, believed in that, and and basically the story started. Like if you look at Ralph Lauren, it doesn't go with fashion. It doesn't go with fads. It is very, very basic lifestyle of everybody that wants to aspire to be something. So uh, what inspires us from when we see Ralph Lauren is that having that belief in yourself, and doing what you think is the right thing to do, and keeping at it. And people, like I said, people notice, and you get your results. You do. So just persevere, and put your hard work.
Amazing. And so that also goes kind of hand in hand with what you mentioned earlier, right? Don't just drudge along, like put your, follow that fulfillment, go for that thing which will give you fulfillment in your career and in whatever you're doing, right? And that's kind of how you can um, you know, basically make progress if you
Yeah,
have the
no, absolutely. I mean, again, think about what you want to do, make your choices, and just try to be good at it. Like I was saying, right? If you don't want to manage people, if you want to be a database administrator, so be it. Be the best database administrator that you want to be.
Absolutely. And yeah, or any other, or accountant, or someone who's in finance, or anything, right? Yeah, I agree. At this point, does anyone have any questions for Sona?
Not questions, but an observation, especially when you talked about performance reviews and how performances are done. And that's definitely been my experience as well. And I feel like it needs to be a process that needs to be very transparent, because a lot of people just don't know how it works. And people just think, especially, I think it's doing a big disservice to especially people coming from, I would say, India, because that's just been my experience. As women, we tend to not sell ourselves or be good advocates of ourselves. And on top of that, when we grow up culturally, we are always taught to like, just do your deed. Don't think about like what's to come. Nobody talks about like, just be modest. Don't toot your own horn. And I feel it's high time that Indian women professionals now taught our young daughters and sons too, about like really be your best advocate, because nobody else is going to come and do that for you. Be visible to others. Make sure that you take every opportunity to do that, because I feel like people over here do it so well, and that's something to be learned from. So coming back to your point, like that was a really good observation. I'm glad that you actually shared that with everybody here.
There's one other thing that I want to share that I tell my team, and I tell my kids as well. I mean, like I said, right? I treat my team as my family, and few years ago they were my younger brothers and sisters, and now as I'm growing, I treat them as my child as well. But something that I tell everyone, and something that has helped me at Ralph Lauren, like I said, right, when I joined Ralph Lauren, I got really great opportunity to start from the bottom and learn about the processes that we have at Ralph Lauren, whether it is how do we design our products, how do we assort our product line, and how do we manufacture our product line. My advice to everyone, and and I'm sure some of you are from IT background and some of you are not from not IT background, but whatever you do, have good depth in it. Understand each and every aspect of what you do. Just don't do your work, finish your work in terms of what's needed and be done with it. Get into the details of what you do. And on top of that, go a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right to understand what leads to my work and how is my work used in the next chain of events. Expand your breadth a little bit, but definitely have your depth completely. That has helped me do at Ralph Lauren. And I didn't join Ralph Lauren to be a transformation leader, but the way I've become a transformation leader at Ralph Lauren is because in past 12 years, let's say if I have done 3 projects in 3 different areas, I've understood those areas very deeply, and I've also understood the connected areas. If any of you understand the IT integrations and IT landscape, there's an upstream and there's a downstream. So I took that time to understand a little bit of upstream and a little bit of downstream. So when I went to my next area, I could connect the dots. I could connect the dots from end to end. And that's what at this point in time I do as my job, because I have this end-to-end vision and end-to-end understanding of the whole process, from concept to selling it to e-com consumers or selling it to people in stores. I have understanding of all of the different applications and processes that help support those and end-to-end chain. It does help me get to where I am. So once again, if you guys are starting your career, or if you're in the middle of your career, or wherever you are, take time, do your job, and understand your space deeply within your space and to the left and right of it as well. It will really, really immensely help you, and people would look up to you, and would be wanting to get your thoughts and advice on things.
So on that point, and this is something we did not get a chance to discuss yesterday, but I'm just going to ask you anyway, right? So when you're talking about moving a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, at some points you sometimes have a little bit of conflict, because you're talking about an organization where there are many, many parties involved, many different interests involved, right? And at that point, when you're trying to kind of expand your boundaries in terms of understanding, you sometimes run into some conflict with those that feel threatened, that, hey, are you trying to take on my role as well? Are you trying to take on something from me? Have you come across that, and how do you deal with that?
Absolutely. I mean, that is one feeling that the other person might get. The other scenario that also happens is that if I try to learn your job, then actually you will put it on me, saying, why don't you also do this part of it as well? So, those kind of things could happen. However, when you show genuine interest in learning stuff and learning with an intention of, if I learn, so, it's kind of a relay race, right? I mean, in an organization, whatever you do, you're getting something from somebody, and then you're doing some part of it, and then you're handing it over to somebody else who's taking the next steps, right? So when you're talking to people on left or right with an intention of, if I understand what you do better in order to give things to me, I think we can have a better connection or better smooth interaction. If I understand what you do with my information, I'll have a better understanding of what you do, and hence I would, my output to you will be more holistic, or more, less error prone. So with those genuine intentions of the learnings, you can break those barriers, or break those conflicts, and start working to understanding more and sharing more. I mean, you learn theirs and they learn yours, and it's overall, it's a better thing for you as a greater team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it does happen a lot, and I guess, like you said, you need to kind of be consistent with it as well, right? Because I have myself faced that issue where, if you go and try to gain that information, it becomes something of a threat to somebody else, like, why are you asking? Who wants to know, kind of a thing. So and
that's exactly what I was going to say, Priya. Sorry, this is Swarna. So I kind of wanted to ask a question, but the longer I wait, I kind of hear those answers from each of you guys. So what I was going to ask is, anyway, sorry, Priya, you want to add something before I ask?
Go ahead, your turn.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So first of all, thank you so much for sharing your experience, and it's commendable on how you got to where you are right now in very short span of time. It almost sounded like 7 or 8 promotions in the last like 10 plus years that you were with, or you are with Ralph Lauren. And so I hear that your tips to just look towards your right and left and expand your horizon horizontally also, while you actually give your 100% or 100% plus in what you're doing. But a lot of big corporate organizations, how they operate is there's so much healthy competition, and a lot of people are outspoken. Usually I work for Applied, and everybody is equally good, like, and there are people in my position for 10 plus years move nowhere. So it kind of worries me a bit, like, what's my career advancement here if I see a person equally good or more better than me being stuck in the same position for such a long time. So what are your tips, or what do you think that helped you get to where you are right now in such a short span of time?
I think that open communications were now with my leadership. I have been very clear of what I wanted to do and where I wanted myself as the next step. So typically at Ralph Lauren, so in some organizations, you get promoted and then you get into a different role or a higher role or a higher responsibility. At Ralph Lauren, it's usually the other way around. You start taking on more responsibility, you get more, work, different kind of work or different kind of thing. And then after looking at it, you get promoted. So my advice to you, Swarna, is, having that very honest conversation with your leader. This is what I've been doing, and this is what I want to do next. Or maybe you don't know what you want to do next. You just want to see how you want to move up, and having that conversation with your leader to say, so I want to, I want to be XYZ, or I want to do XYZ. What is it that what opportunities can I avail of? What are the things that I can do in order to get there? So having that feedback and having that conversation with your manager itself to say, this is your path, and these are the options that you're thinking. Are those the right options? Is there anything else that you should be doing in order to get to your next level? But for now, I mean, honestly, and things have become tough, right? I mean, especially post-COVID and during COVID, and promotions and pay packet revisions have been tough for every industry. I'm not sure which industry do you work in. So
I come from the same background, Sona, just
okay.
like you. You almost sounded like what I've been through.
Okay. So, first of all, finding the ways out and having those conversations directly with your manager. Try and see if you can get into another domain, another area, because you've been doing the same thing that you are doing for quite some time. So maybe, a change of domain will make you learn something else, or taking something in addition to what you're doing, right? So because you're good at what you're doing, you probably don't need to spend 100% of your time. So, taking an additional responsibility for 20% of your time, and and give yourself time, like set yourself some time frame. Amita knows it better. It's true, seven promotions in about 10 years, but I had very, very defined goals. With my manager, it was like, my managers used to say, it feels like we work for you rather than you working for us, because I would literally set out the timelines. This is what needs to happen, and this is when it needs to happen. Tell me if I'm not doing it right, and if I need to do something else in order to get there, then tell me that. But
it is also like being at the right place at the right time. I believe partly because I have had the same conversation, like whatever you're suggesting, I already did. And the answer I got was like, my manager is like, you're only 4 years into this company, and there are like 10 plus years, my peers doing the same thing. and you need at least like 3 or 4 years in the company to even hand over like more responsibility that you're asking for, because they are in the line first. Or it sounded like, oh, I'm going nowhere here, so I'm
No, but
just moving
that's
from
an
one domain
excuse
to
for
other.
now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Honestly, that's an
So,
excuse in my mind. Have that straight conversation with them. Anybody saying you need to do X number of years in order to do XYZ, that's not right. That's just not right.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, we
I
walk
actually
around.
ended up looking to move to a different domain, and I am starting tomorrow. So it's like it's behind me now, but I'm just wondering like how to listen to what you've been through actually.
And good luck with Swarna. I mean, I would have ended at that. You know, once you've exhausted all your options and
Mhm.
you feel that you're not going anywhere,
Yeah,
cut the cord. Don't
yeah.
sit out there thinking that things would change. Don't sit out there
Mhm.
that, okay, once I get 4 more years, things are going to change. If you feel,
Yeah.
no matter how many number of years of experience you have, if you feel you are ready to take up that additional responsibility or additional job, and you've proven it to yourself and you've proven it to your seniors, and things are
Mhm.
not going, absolutely, what you did is exactly what I would have done. So,
Good.
congratulations for taking that
Thank
step, and
you.
good luck with it.
Thanks, Sona.
So I'm curious actually. You mentioned you mentioned something pretty incredible, which is that you had set goals for yourself, right? You had very definite goals. Now, goal setting is a very difficult exercise, in my opinion, right? It's a really difficult exercise. And a lot of the time, the managers are just not interested. Like I've had some pretty terrible managers. Sorry, Amit, I'm not talking about you. Amita was my manager too. I'm not talking about you, but after post coming to Austin, I've had some pretty interesting experiences. And talking about goal setting, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you set those goals? When your manager is just not interested, and it's like what Swarna just said, right? You mentioned like how do you communicate those goals, and how do you create those goals for yourself when it's only you who really sees that?
No, I mean, see, and I've had those kind of managers as well and a lot of people sometimes don't believe in goal setting and appraisals and all, right? I mean, a lot of managers do it as check in the box kind of thing. And if you unfortunately have that kind of manager, that's fine. You do the thing instead of it's manager's job to have the right goal for you and to take care of your career. But if you have a manager who's not doing that, you take that initiative, you put on a time with your manager, you think about what you want to do, lay it out for your manager, put it in an email, so that even if he or she is not interested, he or she is seeing that this is something that you wanted to do. And 6 months later or 1 year later, you kind of evaluate yourself. If your manager is not interested, you say, these are the things that I wanted to do in order for me to get to my next level, and this is what I have done. Is there anything lacking? Is there something else that I should be doing? Have that conversation once again with your manager. And this kind of feedback, manager is going to be forced to take care of you, to listen to you. And sometimes you also get a sort of a skip level, if you can get to that also, saying along with your manager that maybe you want to talk to your manager and say, with you and your boss, I want to sit down and I want to see where else I can help and what else can I do within our department. So like I said, just take care of yourself, advocate yourself, but have very, very clear vision of what you want to do and when you want to do stuff.
Excellent. And that's the other point I wanted to stress on, the vision, right? The vision takes a lot of courage, if you ask me. I know personally there are a lot of people who are like you said, just kind of going along. How do we build oh, sorry, Srija, you had a question. Go ahead.
No, you finish your thought, Priya. I can ask after.
Yeah, sure. So my question was like, to have that vision, it takes a lot of courage, and a lot of women, I feel, have lost the drive or lost the need to find a vision. Like, that's another struggle that, even with this group here, my attempt here is to inspire and motivate other women to dream more, to have a greater vision, to feel like they can do a lot more. And I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on, inspiring other women, and how do you create a vision for yourself? Why should you create a vision for yourself?
I think I'll just say that it's innately in us, women, as I mean, it's great that we are women. There are so many qualities that come to a woman as is that other unfortunately the other gender does not have it. The multitasking capability, the planning capability. I mean, today is a Sunday. I'm sure each one of you have planned what's going to happen in the next week. Next 5 days, what are you going to cook in the morning? Who's going to take what? What's the lunch? What's the dinner? When is the pickup? When is the drop off? You have a very, very clear list of things to be done and very, very clear vision of what you want to achieve by Friday, or probably even next Saturday, Sunday, because you probably have a Diwali party and you've already planned that as well. So it's innately within us to have a very, very meticulous plan of what we want to do, where we want to go. It's just that we keep our, we think our job is secondary to what we do, right? And that's what like I said in the beginning, that is 70% of your awake time. If you are not doing justice to that 70% of your awake time, you're probably not doing justice to the rest of the 30% as well. If you do really good job in those 70% and still, feel fulfilled, feel satisfied, that 30%, you'll be very excited to, spend those time with kids and, have that good time in those 30% and in on those weekends as well. So stop looking of your job as something that you do for a pastime. Start looking at it as an activity that you are engaged in and that you want to be fulfilled in. Exactly like you're taking care of your home, you're taking care of your kids. I mean, you do those activities with a lot of sense of responsibility and a sense of being great at it. So why not your job as well?
I so agree. Srija, you had a question. Go ahead.
Hey, Sona, thank you for sharing your story. Very relatable. So I'm just curious on what is the male-female leadership ratio in Ralph Lauren?
It quite depends by the departments. So some of our business domains like design and merchandising, very, very female oriented, and a lot of white women in that. IT, not so much. IT is a good mix. I mean, at a lower level, IT is a good mix of male and female. But as we grow at a senior level, I believe, I think I'm one of the 8 VPs in IT at Ralph Lauren, who's a woman. So as you keep growing up, the number of women or the ratio does drop, but overall there is a healthy mix of people at different levels.
Okay, thank you for sharing. And are there any leadership coaching that they provide within your company?
Yes. And especially pre-COVID, Shrija, when there was more money, there were a lot of leadership trainings and all that. But post, not so much outside, but we do have great mentor-mentee program throughout the year. So I have been mentored, I have been a mentee. Really good opportunities to go through some of these leadership and training options as well.
Okay, thank you. And Priya, the question that she was talking about, right? There is only so much energy we have, right? Sometimes I have these moments. Yes, I want to climb up on the career and all that. But if at the end of the day, I'm so tired and I don't have time for the family, and that's where, and you think men are like women though? Like it's, unless we openly talk about it, right? I mean, and the definition of success in corporate is, oh, you have to be visible, you have to talk like, that's not what women are good for. We are great in multitasking. We're great in delivering, giving everything to the men on a platter so they can go talk and shine, right? So I think the whole definition of what the corporate should be, the success factor, should change when it comes to women. It cannot be that we have to change our behavior and attitude to be like men. See what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yes,
So that's
absolutely.
where the change should happen. And I think more and more women on the top, like you are, Sona, should push towards that, right? There are women who contribute a lot to the company, and then we should help them out to have them have a voice. It doesn't matter, right? If they cannot do present to the CIO of the company. We do that in GM, right? Oh, that person has no visibility. But what about all the things that are there contributing to the bottom line of GM? That's
Yeah.
one thing that I fight about, and something that we women should help other women come forward.
Absolutely. That's a very good point, Shrija. And, giving each other platform, giving each other a little bit of nudge and Shrija, I mean, and everybody has a different personality, right? Not everybody can go out, but what I have seen is, and I've had people in my team who joined Ralph Lauren straight out of college or, with zero experience. And now they are 6, 7, 8, 10 years of experience. And with a little bit of a nudge, with a little bit of a push, I have seen people blossoming. People are like, oh, I'm not going to go out there and talk in front of so many people. And I'm like, no, don't just forget that there are so many people. You're talking about your work, little bit of practice, little bit of, opportunities over long period of time has and does blossom people. And, but like you said, Shrija, there are so many other things that we do and so many things we are good at it. Climbing doesn't mean going up. Like I said, climbing could mean going horizontal as well. Lavanya?
Oh, hi. Thank you so much for meeting all of us today and sharing your story. My question was talking about family and talking about kids. I see that more as a female trait than the male trait. I do see few men at workplace talk about it, but it's mostly, oh, we won this baseball game, or my kids won this. But when I hear women talk about kids, it's more about, I need to drive them to this place, or they have this coming up. I think I wasn't noticing it as much before, but now that I'm not the person talking, but listening to other people talk, I've started noticing those differences. And is that a positive or a negative? How do you bond with people when 90% of your time is spent with your kids and activities like this? And when I go into some meetings, I hear, oh, football match yesterday, this happened. I'm like, who played yesterday again? That's what is going on in my head. And I can't contribute to those conversations and be the social aspect of it. And I don't know if that is a positive or a negative. Is talking about kids and family a positive or a negative?
It's not at all negative, Lavanya. It's not at all. I mean, some people bond over football, some people bond over baseball, and Indian men bond over cricket. Some of the Indian men could not even talk about football. So us talking about our kids' routine, the classes that we do for them, the bonding is having conversations that leads to another conversation and it leads to another connection. It could be over football, it could be over wine, it could be over kids activity. So I definitely don't see that as negative, Lavanya. Just having conversations creates those opportunities for finding a common thread and common connection that can lead to further bonding and things like that. And I'm sure we're coming up on time, but one thing that I wanted to also share was I don't drink and I don't eat meat. And for the longest time, I saw that as negative for myself. And especially, I told you, right, that I used to travel quite a lot for work. And, after work, men would just hang out from 8 o'clock in the night till 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock at the bar, drinking, through the night. And I would be, holding a glass of water and I could go on till 12 o'clock. And then beyond that, it's like, that's it. I can't keep going on with a glass of water for 2, 3 more hours. And I would think, oh, that's a negative, because if I could hold on more longer, those informal conversations that people are having, 6-7 hours into the night, I'm losing out on those. That's okay. I mean, yes, maybe I lost out on, 2 or 3 other nuggets of information that I could have gotten sitting 12 to 3 over there. But that's not such a negative. It's okay. I mean, there are so many other things that you can do to compensate for something. You don't know football, you don't know football. I don't drink, I don't drink. But there are so many other ways I can connect with people that it really doesn't matter, exactly what.
Thank you.
Important. I'm so glad to hear that, because one of our former guests, Rupa Chaube from who was also a CEO, she mentioned how it was ridiculous how in these corporate events the men would retire for cigar into the cigar lounge, which is, I mean, that's just not acceptable, right? And have you ever had those situations where the execs retire to the cigar lounge kind of a thing, where the whole thought behind it is, yeah, it's all for men, and if you don't smoke cigars, what are you to do?
And that happens to me. I mean, let's go for beer. I'm like, yeah, let's go for beer. But then how long am I going to go, or how long am I going to last when we go for beer, right? 1 hour, 2 hour. But yeah, I mean, there are those, like I said, those small things that men can do, or those things that men can do and does, that definitely gives them an advantage. I'm not going to be, I want to be truthful and honest about it. It does give them advantage. But you know what? Like I said, there are so many other things that we have that men do not have. So we also have an edge over them on, the whole multitasking and planning and then things like that, that we can overcompensate for, what we don't get to do.
So how they say that, and Burgess, I'll come to your question in just a second. I just have to ask this one more question. How they say that more deals are made on the golf course than in boardrooms, right? But at the same time, for those of us that don't play golf, or who don't drink beer, like you mentioned, there are things that you can do to compensate, but how do you go and actively seek those people that you need to network with? Those same people whom, if you had known how to play golf, you'd be playing golf with them and networking with them. So what are other ways in which you would network with these same people who really need to have your ear?
Yeah. I mean, there were pre-COVID ways to do it, and there are post-COVID ways, right? Because pre-COVID, you could actually walk up to them and you could, set up a 15 minutes or a 30 minutes. Let's just meet up and let's just talk about stuff. I mean, talk about a topic, or, just get to connect with each other and get to learn more about it. It could be over a coffee. It could be over, just standing by the water cooler as well. And post-COVID, it could be, once again, not having those conversations when you need to have those conversations, but just, use your Friday or an afternoon, just, set up a connect. If you work with somebody regularly, set up a connect with them, talk to them outside of the work, right? When I say outside of the work, with no agenda in mind, let's set up a 15 minutes chat on Friday, and we'll just talk, right? We'll just share stuff. It doesn't have to be an agenda. So get out and meet people without a specific agenda. If you have specific agenda, for sure connect. But when you're playing golf, you're not playing golf and having a specific agenda item, right? But you happen to talk about those. And similarly, create those opportunities. It could be a Zoom call. It could be, if you can get to meet somebody, go to Starbucks or have a coffee or have a Friday lunch or something.
Burgess, you want to ask your question?
Yeah. Hi, Sona. I had a quick question. What do you see the market right now for young kids who are coming out of colleges in organizations like Ralph Lauren? I don't know. I mean, like a few years ago, it was slightly different when students came out of colleges. but suddenly the market doesn't seem so amazing these days. What do you see these days? Do you see a lot of applicants coming in and getting accepted in organizations like Ralph Lauren? Are you guys open to things like that? I just want to see how the market is for students coming out. I see that difference. Why? Because of the fact I have two daughters. My older daughter all got out of college. She's an aerospace engineer. She's set in her job. She's doing amazing work. My younger daughter is going to come out soon from college, and I see that the market doesn't seem great. So, what do you see sitting in the position you are? I would like to see your perspective.
Burgess, and I'm glad that you bring this up because we were having this conversation, when we got together, some friends. It is tough, and especially I think all of us are, we have probably kids in that range who are either in college and getting out of college very soon. It is actually going to be tough. And where I see at Ralph Lauren, right? There are certain areas that are still, like, for example, I think somebody mentioned that they were in the data science field. There is the fresh, especially in certain areas like data science, there is this requirement for fresh thinking and fresh blood and new aspect and new thinking. So there is an opportunity for freshers, but in a lot of other areas, for example, when I am, I have certain positions in my domain, when I'm looking out for people, with the job market being so tough, and the fact is that there are a lot of experienced people out there for the position that we have, right? For if you can get a 2-year experienced person, you can also get a 8-year experienced person for the same position. And most of the positions, you would rather have an experienced person than a fresher. So unfortunately, because of so much experience out there which is available at this point in time, it could become tough for freshers in most areas, in my mind. But in certain areas it might be the other way around, and especially when it's
How do you
when
see
it's
the
more
market for
big.
marketing and entrepreneurship kind of people? I mean, like I see if they have a technology background, it's little more easier than people with a marketing and entrepreneurship kind of background, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Shija, did you have a question?
I think the hand is still raised. Srija, did you have another question? Or
No,
that's
not
just
anymore. Thank you.
cool. Well, we are actually out of time. Does anyone have any other questions? Be happy to go a couple of more minutes if you have any questions.
I'll be very quick. This has been an indeed insightful and inspiring conversation. Thank you, Sona. And thank you, Priya, for the great questions. You truly tried to capture the essence of what we all wanted to hear. Sona, what I wanted to ask is, what do you enjoy the most about your job as a vice president? And outside of work, how do you like to unwind?
What I like about my job is creating something. Like I'm an architect, I have no skills, like zero skills of any sort of creativity outside of my work. But at work, I enjoy creating things. I enjoy creating a vision. I enjoy creating a roadmap. And Amita and I speak every single day. The day I have done that, I have a great conversation with Amita. And the day I have not been able to do that, and I'm like, oh, what a waste of a day, Amita, today. So that's that. And outside of work, I'm a walker. I can walk anywhere from 4 to 10 to 11 to 12 miles. I love going out there and walking, and just going out there and enjoying the nature and the experience out there.
Thank you. 10 to 12 miles a week or a day?
A day during COVID.
How do you find the time?
So I had all my office calls. If I was not on Zoom, if I didn't need to be on the camera or didn't need to be looking at the screen, I was walking and talking. So a lot of people have walked with me in essence during COVID as well.
Interesting. Thank you.
I'm curious to know, this is such an important thing because you mentioned that you talk to Amida on a fairly frequent basis, and I'm guessing that you talk about work a lot. Help us understand what that conversation is like, because I feel like all of us need to kind of mimic that and, do the same thing, because we talked about building your core network, building the set of people whom you can really connect with, and talk about work and stuff like that. I want to kind of see what is your when you guys talk about work, what's that conversation like, and help us to learn from that so we know how to tailor our conversations with our girlfriends, right? And to build our own core networks.
Yep. Amita, why don't I let you talk? I have talked a lot about you, and you have been, you have talked to this group already. So why don't you share some of the examples of what we talk? If you are not moving around, she's a walker too. So
Yeah, I know.
Hey, thanks, Sona. I can definitely speak to it. I can't be on the camera at the moment, but happy to talk about last couple of conversations that we have had. And they are from all over. They're from all over. So the most recent conversation that we have had, and Sona, I'm hoping it's okay to share, was around promotion and was about how to navigate a particularly sticky situation at work. This is, Sona was sharing some of the things that were going on at her work. And then we started talking about, it's part coaching, part listening, part sharing my experience. So that was one of the most recent conversations. I'd also touch on another conversation, which was an issue that I was dealing at work with. It was a person that I was having trouble giving feedback to. And again, it was a very sticky situation. And then Sona did the role play where I would act as the manager and I'm delivering feedback. And then she would come back with really strong pushback. And then, okay, how would I respond to that? So it was so good to have that sounding board, to go through that experience. So when I actually had that conversation with that individual, that particular conversation, it didn't feel new to me. And I was prepared for what was coming. So it's all the way from different types of conversations the sticky situations that we get into and we find hard to deal with. And then it also goes from expressing frustration about what's going on at work. But the key thing that I would say Sona brings, yeah, here you fine, let's move forward. Let's not just continue dwelling on this issue that you have. What are you going to do about it next? So it's pushing boundaries a little bit, and it's a safe space. So she can tell me anything, I can tell her anything. And I know that the advice that I am getting is from a very neutral perspective. So that trust helps us deal with these super challenging situations. Back to you, Sona.
No, absolutely. And that's why I was saying earlier, find your network, and the network doesn't mean 20 people. Find your core group that you can share information with and you can get feedback. And sometimes it's just talking aloud, I mean, there are times when both of us are on walk and for half an hour I'm like blah 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 blah, and Amida is like okay, and then while talking to her, I've either figured out stuff or I have, let it all go. And then next day when I come back in, I'm, I can, it's past is past and I can think about it, differently in future. So it's just having that, that person and that group of people or whoever that you can connect with and share ideas and like I said, right, this group, for example, I mean, everybody goes through challenges, and everybody sometimes goes through similar challenges. Those sticky situations that we as managers feel from our team could feel from sticky managers like us. I mean, we are not great, but our people could be experiencing that. So having somebody to share their experience, what is it that they do, or what is it that they feel when their managers say something, it's always, there's always so much learning in all the conversations that you do. I mean, yes, we do talk about what are you making today. I can't think of what to cook today. And what are you going to do tomorrow? I mean, that's part of our conversation too, but there's a large part of our conversation regarding work as well.
That's so awesome. And I'm really happy that you brought that up, because I think that's a very crucial component of this network also, right? Like building and finding that, understanding that it's important to have that core group to bounce off ideas from, and talk to, and feel like you can trust, in terms of what you're saying. Hira, you had a question.
Yeah, just to understand the context. By the way, thanks so much for sharing your insights, Sona and Amita, and giving us a real-time example of like how you actually leverage each other's experience and expertise on kind of backing each other up, helping each other in sticky situation. But just to understand the context a little better, like, were you already friends, like knew each other socially first, or were you professionally like working with each other? Because I think in both the contexts, sometimes the dynamics change a little bit. For example, in Steiner, when we started the IWP, a lot of us knew each other socially. We knew each other as so-and-so's mom or so-and-so's wife, and more and less to do with we are so-and-so and this is the title that supports us. But so it's quite easy, I feel, sometimes to do that when you're already in a professional setting and then you become friends, as opposed to when you do it the other way around. So I just wanted to understand the context behind, like, did you already know each other, or did you become friends as professionals, like working together?
We are middle school friends.
Good. Okay.
We know each other from ever. Our both our dads were classmates in engineering as well. So we go a really, really long back.
Got it.
That's awesome.
Cool. So that definitely helps.
I'm sure we all have that, right? Those friends. I think it's important to kind of keep connections close,
Yes.
build those relationships. Yeah. So, any other questions? Last question. If not, thank you.
Hey, Priya, Meenakshi here. No question, but I do want to thank both of you. It's been a great session. I just recently moved to Austin, and this is my first session here attending, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you both. It has been very productive, I would say. This 1 hour spent in the afternoon, 1.5 hour, happy about it, that I spent it this way. So thanks.
Thanks, Meenakshi. She's very new to Austin, and she's come from Bangalore, and so I was like, you should join IWP. So again, if I appreciate you, Sona. Thank you for taking the time and being here, and I appreciate everybody here who's taken the time from their afternoon on a very, very festive and busy weekend. Send me recommendations, please, anyone, for the next speaker that we're going to have, and take on this message that we've heard to the other women in your network. So thank you so much, and happy Navratri.
Thank you. And guys, please feel free if you have any question, if you come across a situation and you need a little bit of guidance or just a little bit of talking it out as well, please feel free to reach out.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Now that you're in the network, they can reach you. You're in the Facebook group and in the LinkedIn group. I guess they can reach out to you directly as well.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the week and or starting week, and happy Diwali in advance to everybody.
Yes, happy
Thank
Diwali.
you. You too.
Thanks, Sona. Thank you, Priya.
Thanks, Amita. Bye.